Where do we want to start? How we're all connected together? Because I think at least we get more exposure in a meeting and more potential for more things. Yeah, I know.
All right, being it is 7:04 now, we'll get started for the first facilities committee meeting. I'm your chair, Jacob Craigo. We have board members Keith McCarron, Liz Flukie, Mr. Warback, our director of facilities operations. And in the audience, we have Bishop Moneyman, Dr. Rhodes, our superintendent, and public and Howard board members. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes from May 27th.
Motion.
Any questions or concerns?
I think it's freezing out here.
Yeah, I was dying.
That has nothing to do with you.
I knocked,
It
yeah, I knocked it down. I don't know how, you know.
All those in favor?
Turning the temperature up.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable. All right, Jim. Old business, all the summer projects.
Yeah, so the asbestos project, as I think everybody knows, we're very close to being finished. The only, other than the casework, the outstanding item is just the banding choir rooms, the flooring's in or it's painted. Really all we need to do is some IT work, that's internal, and maintenance needs to build some shelves for the instruments to go back in. And we need to put the furniture, the classroom desks, or chairs and stuff back in. So the idea is on Tuesday of next week to have those rooms available to the students. I'm hoping it'll be before then, but that's the goal as far as it is right now.
Just the band.
The band and choir room. All other areas are open and being used. Like I said, the casework is obviously still outstanding. I don't have a delivery date on that yet, you know. So I will update as we go with that. Then that's going to be kind of chaotic. We're going to have to figure that out with the vendor on how we're going to put that in. You know, whether we take 2 rooms out at a time and move, you know, students around. But we will need to figure that out and hop on some calls and really hammer that home. The new furniture, which is the lab tables and chairs for those lab rooms, that's coming the end of September. So we're going to start working on that next week as far as how that's going to be coordinated, moving that furniture out. You know, that's the real unfortunate part is we're going to have to now move all that furniture out for them to put it in, and it's going to be we're definitely going to have to coordinate that well. I'll get into the change orders in a little bit under new business and go through each one of them that you're going to see on the board agenda, or hopefully on the board agenda coming up. But other than that, I think the project, you know, it was I don't want to say difficult, it was challenging, but we got through it, and the contractors did a phenomenal job. And then custodial on top of that, and maintenance did a fantastic job moving furniture. They did a lot of moving this summer, even between buildings and to the ed center and moving stuff around. And obviously we're not done with that yet. So any other questions on that?
Did we ever have a date on the casework?
Did we ever? No. We know that it's probably looking November-ish. So yeah, that's the real, you know, negative part of the project. I think everything else, you know, and some of the change orders too that we weren't aware of at the time, but that's the real, you know, sore part of that project. Everything else I think went well. You know, we worked through a lot of those issues, challenges, design issues. So
Not to talk negative, but there's probably a vendor or a group that won't be working with based upon.
You know,
absolutely.
Was that?
I said you don't say.
Right.
Yeah.
Just saying,
Yeah.
and that's part of that conversation.
Yep.
And I think on our tour, we'll hit on science rooms, right, that have the main shift covering of the floor pieces to see
Yep.
that it's safe.
Was that vendor we're not going to use paying that?
I am actually, I was just going to say, I've been in talks with the higher ups at that particular vendor.
Good.
I don't know where that stands right now, but I did ask the question.
I would be happy to
So,
chime in if you.
When the question was asked to me, what can we do to make it right? I said, you can give us all of my time.
Yeah,
So
that would work.
I did start with all, and we'll see
Thank
where
you.
that winds up.
Thank you.
Don't share too much on recording.
Oh, yeah,
and-
sorry.
Well, it's the same.
Well, I think given the challenge of that and
Yeah.
the entire scope of the project, and I think, everybody that was involved should be commended on getting to this point, having the school safe and ready
Yeah.
for the first day of school, which was successful today, so.
Good.
Which is good.
Good.
So that's the plus side, that's,
Yep.
that's the sum side.
We didn't have to delay, we didn't have to virtual, we didn't have to, any of those horrible things that no one wanted, you know.
Well, and all those contractors, all those contractors the whole time, they had the same thought process, that they weren't gonna let that happen. So there was work happening on Saturdays. The people waxing of the floors were here the one night until like 1, 2 a.m.
Oh, Jesus.
So, we made it work, so. The roof projects, everything's really good with that except for 2 minor issues. The Marlboro, part of that project is per code to build a barrier, well, not a barrier, but like railing around the roof access. That railing did not come in time, that had to get fabricated. So that's happening this week, and that'll be closed out. And the skylights for the 4-5 center were on back order. So they're supposed to receive them this week, and I talked to the principal, and he gave me a schedule of when they can get in there so that they can do that work when students aren't in. So those are the only 2 outstanding items. Those projects went very well, no change orders, everything is good, so great. The Marlboro wastewater project, again, I'll get into the change orders in a little bit here, but that's done. It's up and running, the plant's working as it should, and we should be able to not talk about that for, 10, 15 years, so hopefully that's the case. Door hardware is 99% done. There were 2 doors that weren't on the original list, band and choir actually. We're getting the cores for them now so that they can be on the new key system. And one of the access control points, Marlboro, they sent the one piece of equipment, they sent the right box, everything was ordered correctly. When they opened the box, the wrong piece was in there. So I'm just waiting to hear when that's coming in, and we'll get that taken care of in that project.
All right, move on to discussions and presentations. Security, how are we?
Fully staffed. Rodney has been meeting with all the new security guards, and as far as I know, everything's going well. So.
You know, how many meetings, everybody's there today, handling the
Yep.
traffic aside from everyone thinking they can get into the high school in 5 minutes. A little back up there this morning, but the middle school I was there, 7:20 was deserted. Like with the split of the buses, I think it's really had an
that's a
impact,
big
so
deal.
it's still gotta work itself out, but that may be one of the more positive things I've heard in the past 2 weeks is the busing. Not only for staff, if you're there on vacation, because it really helps the staff. They want something to grab this thing later, but I got an email from a 6th grade parent that's like, that was the best news I've gotten all summer, because my daughter was horrified to get on the bus with the big bad high school kids. Again, right, we all get that.
Yeah.
But that was, it.
Yeah.
And I passed that along to Jen as well, so. Anyway, so the security, but they were all out there doing their security detail today.
Do we know how many returned from last year?
Many,
Many.
many returns.
Because I saw some familiar faces.
Yeah.
Good. That's a good thing.
I ran into Rodney after school, right before dismissal, and he said everything went great. It was a good day, great kids. I said, awesome, 179
Yeah.
Feasibility study?
I don't really have much on that right now. August, I did not work on that as much as I hoped to. But I am working on a long-term facilities plan, 3, 5, 10 years, that can be, adjusted, moved, manipulated, and then kind do. And I'm just focusing on facility-wise, once curriculum gets in it, obviously we have the athletic side. But that is definitely something that I'm gonna be, hitting hard being in this school year, so.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I'm not sure this is the right time to ask you, or the right committee to ask it. So when does the discussion of selling a building begin? And in what committee does that begin in? Because that is going to take a feasibility study. Because it's not just a matter of selling a building and we cash it out. It's a matter of understanding the impact if we, let's say we close 4 or 5 and we sell 4 or 5, the impact of spreading those kids out in other buildings, what does that cost look like? And initially, what does it cost to run the 4 or 5 in the Ed Center on a daily or yearly basis? So that's got to be part of the analysis. Again, I don't know where this conversation begins, or even if the majority of the board wants to even have that conversation.
Yeah.
I just threw it out there in May at finance as a potential thing to look at relative to fiscal responsibility.
Feasibility study that was done by KCBA does have some of those scenarios deeper in there, though. So there are some recent 2 years, some of that conversation has already been looked at. My caution with KCBA is that they want to build new and build little learning stairs and all that stuff. And I'm like, that's not what we need right now, So anyway, some of that is there. Some feasibility pieces with projections, student projections, as well as add additions. I would at least, if that's the conversation, at least dig into that again to see what some of those things were, and see if any of those were palatable. Because it's already there, it's a matter of work.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
So,
We put that online, we put that in the.
The board has access, yeah, we add in there.
I have it, I won't, so I'll just leave it.
yeah, so again, I just dropped that
Yeah.
seed, and I don't know, this is the committee to have that conversation, or Melanie, if that's part of a discussion by the full board at a
Yeah.
workshop, or whatever, but I just want to make sure that I didn't forget about it, and I won't forget about it.
I would suggest that that be initially before the board at a workshop, and before we have that workshop, maybe next month, provide all the information that we have to the board members, and the old feasibility studies, so we can just have a general consensus or a general idea of what has happened in the past and what was recommended. And then we can come together as a whole group and say what direction we want to head in, and then kind of decide which we should take it over. Which start with.
Yeah, that works.
I could re-highlight it in the city's board update, just re-bring the document up and put it in there. And maybe just I'll bring a table of contents up that we can try to get where you want to go.
Yeah.
That would be great.
KCBA does everything you said.
What's that?
KCBA takes everything and puts it in one document.
Right.
I wasn't suggesting for this week, I was thinking next month
You
maybe.
want to break from Labor Day weekend, you don't want to send pages?
Well, I'm not gonna be here. so I'm
Well,
leaving
and-
Wednesday night, Wednesday, so I
And
don't
Keith,
care.
no offense, but I would like it now. This whole process we're talking about,
It's a major.
it's major. And we're gonna need every minute. No offense.
No, that's fine.
You can look at it when you get back.
I just gave you some of the information before, so.
Yeah.
Just a refresher.
After you put it back in, and then we put it in.
Very good.
I'll take it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, next thing. All right, new business.
Yeah.
Change orders.
Yeah, the fun stuff. Yeah, so, I'm not used to this many chambers, I just like that. But we did have some, and I'll just go through them. The first one for Baver was actually a credit of $36,000. What happened there is,
Start off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it gets,
It's worth
Start off strong.
So, and the unfortunate part about that is the removal of asbestos abatement out of the project. So essentially, in the cafe area, it's safe. Nobody can go up in that ceiling. Above the ceiling was it has spray-on and fittings. When we went up to look at it, it was way more than what we expected from the report. And basically, if we would have tackled that we would not have been able to open school on time. So we took that credit with the thought of if we were ever to do a renovation in the CAF or get another, grant, we would go about it then. On that note, there also are fittings throughout the building or throughout this section of the building that we did not take. There were more fittings also than what were anticipated in the report. Those aren't as bad. They're pipe fittings. They're very well contained, essentially, and the maintenance and custodial had in-person training on this. Essentially, if something were to leak, they know to call me immediately. I call our environmental consultant immediately. So we have plans in place for all of that. But again, if we weren't to take this credit and we were to add that into the project or keep it in the project, I should say, we would not be having school this week. So that's the 36 credit. The next one was so essentially the second one was some design issues. There were some there were some rooms in the building that had asbestos tile that weren't in the plans. There were some rooms that didn't have it that were in for abatement. When those all got figured out in the walkthrough, that was a credit of $7,500. The next one is a positive. It's the door frame paint. When we do our walkthrough, you'll see, actually those doors were part of it. This room was painted that way. But all the rooms that were in the scope didn't have door frame paint. We chose that blue to match the colors, and I think it turned out really well. But they were in terrible shape. So just again, that should have been in the bid documents. It wasn't. So, we would have been paying that anyways. It would have just been bid.
How much was that change?
That one was $17,250.24. That was great.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah. Change order number 4 is the removal of the CAF soffit. So in the original bid document or bid plans, there's a soffit over there that has fittings in it. We just left that because again, it didn't make sense to open up that drywall and get in there. That was an alternate, so that credit was already part of the bid. So that's a credit of $17,300. And then the big one was when we did the gym hallway. That had a lot more spray on in there than anticipated. That's also where we lost a lot of our time. We were ahead of schedule. That kind of pushed everything back. So that was a change order just for the abatement. It was $57,489.75. Associated with that was they weren't able to fireproof. So once they removed the spray on fireproof, they have to re-fireproof those steel beams. They weren't, because of the scenario, they weren't able to use the fireproof that was spec'd. They had to use an upgraded one with a smaller nozzle. So that added $13,880.16. That was 6, yeah. 7 was a negative change order. Basically, we just took the allowance. So built into the bid was an allowance for things that came up. Since these change orders went well above, we just added the change orders and took the allowance back, if that makes sense. So that was a negative of $10,204. And then number 8 just came in. This will be the last one for Baver. This one just came in for $8,094.64. This is for the putting in those boxes. So obviously, like we talked about, that'd be a nice thing to talk to them about.
Yep.
Putting in those boxes added in $8,094. So there was a total positive change order if you add everything and add and subtract of $25,710.79.
And that included the 8,900?
That includes that.
That's
So
pretty darn good.
I don't.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I don't have it on here, but that'll be on the board agenda too, if that's okay with you guys.
JP,
Yes.
just FYI, Baver is a one.
Yep.
Baver did a great job.
Yeah, all of our contractors, just so in case I didn't say it out loud before, they all know each other, they all work together, and they all, I think I did say it, they're all right in our area.
I will say, if they didn't work together, this project would have went
They were on it,
very.
and they knew they were gonna be on it, because they all got it.
It'd be great.
Was the committee comfortable with all 8 of those to the agenda for Thursday?
Yes.
So we'll do, there's a motion on there already, we want
Yep.
to just do bullets for each of them, and then each with the plus or minus attachment.
Yeah, the attachment.
Order one with the dollar amount plus or minus and the attachment. Put those on there. The board will get that on
The
Wednesday.
attachments do not explain what the attachments are really the AIA documents, which are the contract documents. I think they give a brief description, but it's not very detailed. So then the change orders for the wastewater project, which the design professional is the same person. But I do, a lot of these are just unforeseen conditions. The first one is for that air manifold, that's already board approved. That's the one where, they just needed to add in the metal for that manifold to make that last longer. But again, that one was $6,233. The change order 2, the grading on the top of the wastewater plant, when they removed it, was so deteriorated. So in order for maintenance to be able to maintain it, they had to put new steel decking on. That was for $6,549. Again, deteriorated overflow line for $2,607. And a lot of this is, you don't know that it's that bad until you remove the sludge and material inside to get into there. The change order for, the diffuser support, the support that holds the diffuser in place was rusted out or deteriorated, I should say, $4,879. And then the big one is change order 5 for $14,238. This is the one where when they removed everything, they sandblast the sides before they repaint. And this is where the walls of the tank were actually corroding. And even 1 or 2 of them, the holes were wet from the other side. So they were actually, we were running the risk of leaking out of that tank. So obviously that's something we approved in the field to take care of, so we get that built. So that's a total of $34,506. So I know change orders are a bad word, but those ones are all unforeseen.
So between the 2 projects, we're just $9,000 in the hole. Between the $25,000 credit.
Oh no, that was
No,
that
that's plus.
that was plus.
Oh.
So once you add and subtract
So
everything,
Never mind.
So
Yeah.
it's
So they were just
60,000.
plus
So-
25 at the end.
yeah.
So we're about 60,000 over.
Is there any contingency written somewhere? Any written for the contracts or is this all about the?
This is above and beyond that. Yeah.
All right. High school backflow preventer.
So our backflow preventer is going back here. It's also the support, the connections for are deteriorating. So I approved, we quoted this out. I approved work for that for $11,500. The reason why I approved that right away is I'm worried if that were to give out, I'm calling Dr. Roach because that's where our main water comes into the building. If that were to deteriorate to the point where it completely leaked, I'd be calling him to tell him we don't have school. And also, it's not up to code. Basically, it's vertical, it should be horizontal for maintenance. So there's a major change there.
So that we did.
It's not completed. It's in the works. But we'll have to do that either this Friday or next Friday because we'll have to shut water down.
Yeah.
So, or off hours. So. And then the next one is the Ed Center drain pipe replacement and parking lot discussion. So, starting with the drain piping, out back of the Ed Center, we repaired 3 of the inlets because they had not sinkholes but deteriorating around. There was deterioration around them, and what we found was a much bigger problem. So we repaired that, but there's 2 main lines, drainage lines, going out towards the homes behind it, and then to the left. Those drainage lines are completely corroded. So when water rushes through there, when we get these big rains, it's just running dirt and taking the sidewalls with it. So I got it quoted, it was above the bid threshold. So we're looking into, right now I'm looking into what we can do about, getting that price down and what our options are. But we're gonna have to dig that up at some point. We found a pretty significant sinkhole that we filled in the grass, which thankfully Tidy Up had not hit. If they did, that would have probably been a bad scenario. So there are sinkholes forming back there because that water is just taking the earth with it.
Right.
So that's something I'm actively looking into.
Will anybody of them reline when they do the storm pipes? If they've been doing them, just refill and that's.
Yeah, they can't reline these. They're gonna have to dig them up, and what I've been advised is to put the plastic ones in that'll last 30 years.
Yeah, okay.
So these are the metal lined ones already, and that's just all.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's nothing to line.
I don't know how.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how old they are. I just know that they're completely.
Probably as long as whatever the skating rink was.
Yeah.
And we've been in it for years, so.
It could be. Yeah, it could be from then. It could be. Yeah. That would make
My
sense.
daughter's 40 and she broke her ankle there. Her wrist doing that when she was in elementary school.
Yeah.
Sure, you want to appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sure she does. She won't watch the video, so I'm okay.
So that's the drain pipe part of it. The other part is, we've noticed a lot of parking by people outside the district going on back there, and Dr. Roach and I have been discussing it. It's with this scenario, it's also not a very safe condition for them to park there and then walk across. I hate for somebody to roll an ankle or even worse. And then,
You love the park at the data center for as long as I've been there. I brought it up before about we want to uphold the signs that are in our parking lot that say it's private property. They park there, they walk through the grass to their homes at a convenience. The development on the other side, if you don't know, it's dense.
Yeah.
People find that space. So that's been going on for a while. I brought it up a couple years ago, and it kind of was like, let's leave it alone. That's just what it is. So yeah, this is convenient, this conversation's happening, but it's been going on for a while, so I did put some pictures together. So, in the middle right there, you have a truck that's unloading a bunch of furniture that they're running up the grass into the person's backyard.
that's right where.
That's right where those areas are.
Ah.
The areas that he's talking about is right in this general area right here. So this is an example, this happened any day. I drove in there and they're unloading at a convenience for that area. Over here, this is a shot down on the superintendent's side of the building, the SS right about here. There's a covered car like you see in someone's garage
yeah.
with a cover over it.
I've seen some of those parking curbs.
And then, well, there you go.
Yeah, right.
And then, at least we would know who was there.
Yeah.
Because this is a real PETA on snow days too.
And you have them sign a thing as they fall into the.
So you have, so this is 4 or 5 cars there on a certain day. Here's other cars that are parked there on the weekend. At any given time, there's between 10 to 15 cars that are not ours, that are all along that back area there. So yeah, the question is, and these are the signs that we have at the center entrance. That's the one there. It says you're going off authorized vehicles, and real small there by the stop sign, it's saying, whatever it says.
So first off, I can get you the contact information for the HOA.
Okay.
It's not me.
I didn't know that.
But.
That's your covered cars.
It's trash that is going
Yeah.
Probably wheels
I don't know how to proceed.
They send us stuff all the time that we're doing wrong, so I can have them get in contact with you and you can explain the situation, and I'm sure they can send a blast out to the local community to say like, hey, you guys can't park here. That can be step one.
Yeah, and some of the vehicles are commercial vehicles. Like I don't want to say, there's a Remco truck that's in there every day, overnight. I mean, I don't know if we want again, because on our liability having commercial vehicles in there on a consistent basis. So we'll bring it to you, and like I said, last time we brought it up, I was kind of like, no, leave it alone.
Do we want to put, I don't know what the sign says on the
It says, I'm really small print.
Is it one of those, owners will be towed at their expense kind of thing?
School property is trespassing, authorized activity only is the one.
I totally get the liability issue, but what kind of blowback are we gonna get?
Oh, you're gonna get plenty of.
School district parking
Well,
lots,
you're
all
paying
others
for
towed
it,
at
that's-
emergency stands.
Okay.
That little sign says all others towed at emergency stands. We're looking to tow people, we would obviously, if we were, you know,
Better to contact them or know who they
if that's
were.
what we want to do, you know, or just to say they belong. But I think with the
Right now,
potential
license
issues
plate
back there.
numbers and everything.
Well, one of those cars hasn't been inspected since '23. So, you know, we may have, that may just be one
Maybe
particular.
we can
may
set,
have
maybe it
a
could be the
van.
band car.
Then you go to get one.
The big gray or grayish box truck in there is ours.
Yeah.
It's not on the screen here, but it's up in the main parking lot area. That it was former food service that we used from time to time to move tables and chairs and all that.
Right, that's just.
Oh, agreed, yeah.
That's a little
Yeah,
different.
I think we should send notice to the development, you know, and then follow again in a few months.
So 8 then.
That's okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I've actually also
looking-
worked every.
Looking for direction, not looking at.
Well, the other thing, but
Play that game.
as I said, it's a liability issue, so many trips, even though we've got posted.
And are you,
So
do
I
you
think-
do this summer, winter time, are you supposed to shovel, are they supposed to driveway or if there's a
Probably.
It's a combination of that, the streets are pretty narrow, so you're not allowed to park on a lot of the streets in there. So if you're in the townhomes there, and you have multiple vehicles, you can probably only get one in your driveway, and then you're not allowed to park on the street. So it's just.
There's limited parking, but
Yeah.
like I said,
Is that Burke Road? Or is that on the other side of Burke Road? That one?
This is Northgate.
Is it Northgate?
Yes.
Does Northgate have bigger parking, but it's farther away?
No.
No, aren't you?
No
Sorry,
shuttle.
I have a parking lot that this happens to me every day, so,
No shuttle.
yeah. Thank you.
Question.
Yeah.
You said that one out to bid, that was quite expensive, ballpark figure.
We got quotes, we did not bid it yet.
I'm
If-
sorry.
Yeah, we're looking either into doing it on a cooperative purchasing, or we would have to bid that, yeah.
So we're looking over $2,000.
Yeah, it came in at 23 or 24,000. So also, we're trying to get that up a bit number too,
Yes.
so, kind of looking at.
I was just curious as to how far out we want.
Yeah, no. It's right at the number, it's right at the difference.
Which ends up costing us a lot more because we have to get documents ready and all that other junk.
And that's why I'd rather do it design build.
Totally, I understand that.
High school pool, HVAC share.
So the HVAC equipment that's above the pool, for that area, one of the units, the shaft, basically, it didn't break, but it's destroyed. So I had to get a new shaft. That's on its way. It should be here first week of September, so next week. That one was a little bit more than $10,000. What we did was we took parts off. There's 2 units. We took parts off of one, made one work, and now we're waiting on the parts to make both work. So right now we're working off of one unit up there. We had to do the repair, but those are 2 of the units that'll be on that facilities planning. So they're probably ready to go as soon as possible. So, but they're not just on the shelf. Still have to make the repair and replacing that later. So, and then the high school water line. So there was a water line that ran out to the baseball field for watering and whatnot. I don't know how long it's been. It was broken. They've tried time and time again to find out where the break is. I think, and our vendor also thinks it was broken in multiple locations. So we just abandoned the line, ran a whole new line out there. It runs to the dugout, and the local youth league wants us to run a line from there to the pitcher's mound, which I just don't think we should do. But they are looking into funding that themselves.
Why do they want it there?
Oh, for irrigation.
For irrigation purposes.
They can't just do
So,
that.
yeah, so I have the quote for them. If they wanted to do it in off season, that would be fine. But I don't see us spending district funds when we ran it out there. I'm buying a hose to run it. What's that?
We have policy.
Yeah.
Can't
Well,
just-
no, it would be approved by us. Sorry if I didn't make that clear.
No. No.
It was a donation, so.
It would be a donation.
It would have to go through that process.
It would have to go through that process. So if that's something they were to do, I'd bring it up to you guys here. If it says to me. Yes.
It's
Yeah.
like the lights in town.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we wouldn't just make that approval. Yeah, sorry if I wasn't
Have
clear.
a donation.
Two others, high schools, have things.
But we're
like
not
that.
doing it.
Some do, some don't. Some do, some don't. You know, where I came from, we had a close enough water that we ran a hose all the way out there, you know, went across the road. So it's some do, some don't. It's
So
really
the water line
depends.
in the dugout area is not close enough there.
It's close enough, I mean, in my opinion, it's close enough.
It's not losing the lens of what's going on in the baseball field, it's
Yeah.
going on in the softball field.
Thank you.
You gotta have that lens
That's a very fair point.
of balance.
Just the
infield mound
the
and
infield.
and the horseshoe.
We could probably get one of those big tanks with the metal around them and fill it.
Yeah.
Let's get
Well, we're already,
serious. Just saying, I know where to get one.
we're already right there. We have.
Uh,
We can make-
Sprinklers,
Okay.
hose and sprinklers.
And then the turf replacement discussion. So we had our annual cleaning and evaluation of the turf. It passed the GMAX in a fair condition.
Both fair?
Both fair. The gentleman did say, you know, it is in good shape for a 13-year-old field, but that's today. So I wanted to bring this up because in order to replace that turf, if we wanted to do it next summer, that really needs to start now. It is a long process between RFP, interviewing, deciding on manufacturer, deciding on who we want to install. My suggestion would not be to bid that, it would be to do a design build, and pick the turf that we want and pick the installer that we want through the RFP process. But then there's also the approval of shop drawings, the manufacturing of the turf. So if we wanted to do that, I think we should start that now. I'm concerned about the turf for next season not passing a GMAX. It would be 14 years in. That's really pushing it, in my opinion. So I know there's much more discussions with that, but I'm wondering if it makes sense to start the RFP process now, knowing we don't need to go ahead with, we don't need to do it next summer. We can start the process,
Can we do that?
get the ducks in a row.
What kind of cost do we have to start that process?
Well, through Keystone, and Bobby did a lot of work on this. Through Keystone, the key turf right now, I don't know where that number lies. These were supposed to be budgetary numbers. Was about $480,000. Tribe was 412, rounding up, and the track was 415, and then new goalpost was 7. So, I would start the RFP attacking all 3 of those, and then, making sure that that's broken out.
But I mean, what does the RFP process cost us?
Nothing.
Okay, that was.
Yeah, we don't even need to advertise that.
That was the information.
How long have we been having this conversation? And all we do is go around in circles. This is before you, Mike. There's nothing to do with you. And, in my opinion, the athletic director came back to us with a Taj Mahal.
I thought it was.
So, question of Drew, how much money is in the Secret Turf Fund?
Yeah, just over 200 and, I don't know, about 220, something like that.
And I'll never understand that, why, it has nothing to do with you or Alan or any other administrator currently here, but I still don't get that whole turf replacement. So, what, the banners that are hanging in the stadium right now, where does that money go?
In the general fund. Or to purchase additional banners that some are needed for replacement.
So what do we do with that money?
It supports the general fund.
then what do we do with that money? What do we get, what do we buy with that money? Can that not be directed to turf?
It could, sure.
I mean,
What are those numbers?
it's so, not a lot, but again, this
Right.
goes back to what I said during extracurricular. We can't, and maybe you guys think we can, be putting out millions of dollars to do these upgrades when this should have been done a while ago. I have a problem with the timing. So,
Can't manufacture more money than we have.
Pure and simple. I can just shake my head at this lack of planning here, this lack of proactiveness here is mind-boggling.
Well, when we raise taxes every year to cover the expenses, that's not one of them.
We're not covering turf, tax, raising
No.
taxes.
Well,
And it goes back to our fiscal effort of putting this athletic foundation together to take care of that stuff. Or at least find
Offset
monies
some
to
of it.
offset it.
Yeah.
This, it's just absolutely mind-boggling.
And the turf may very well make it to next year. We just need to be prepared if we're to fail
But
GMAX.
Mike, we're rolling the dice.
yeah.
If we fail the
All
GMAX, we're not.
All that test did this year was buy us a year.
That's just.
That's all it did. That's all it did. But I
That's just a
just,
test.
I agree with you what you're saying, poor planning, but it doesn't help us.
I know.
much.
You said
So
the
I
lesson,
recommend-
we are where we are.
I know. But it's just,
So we thought those maybe might be some directions to move forward with getting some.
Or-
Right.
You already had it.
I think that's,
You have
yeah.
the direction for the committee to move forward with your time to, inside of any outside costs or.
No, we don't need to advertise it. It's just putting it out there and
Get in that process.
beginning that process. And like I said, I would add in everything with the,
And you have the ability to adjust it as needed.
Yeah.
and once that goes public, it is right now, we will probably not find outside funding at all. Because the message we're sending out is, oh yeah, let's go, we're gonna replace it.
No, we're saying we're gonna start the process of figuring out what grades of it we need, and whoever we're gonna donate to, and if they are,
Fine.
isn't gonna have input on that anyway.
Well, fine, but, only if you're at this meeting do you know that.
So at the end of the process, we'll have solid numbers. That way, if you did approach
We'll have something
Joe's
to go with.
business, you would know what it was, and the board would have a discussion. If it cost X, we're willing to put the name on it for Y.
Okay,
I mean, I
There
think
you
that's
go.
where we're gonna be able to have that more structured conversation.
love it.
And if we wanna have a conversation about the $300 banners that are hanging on the whole field, and say we're gonna redesign that program so they're $1,000, so we lose 2 or 3, but we're gonna get money that's gonna be driving that way. So we still wanna be a supporter of all of our outdoor sports that are in the stadiums. It's gonna cost a little more because we got upgraded.
But the people who sponsor the banners are gonna have to know, hey, your money's going to this.
Right.
Back to the general fund.
Right.
Right.
But he already has a revenue number in the general fund accounting for X amount of banners, $300 a banner, blah, blah, blah. So that would be, again, a budget conversation that if the money was going to shift somewhere,
Have to make it up for.
he'd have to make sure that he knew that next year's budget, as opposed to expecting $3,000, only expect $2,000 and one revenue stream.
Gotcha.
Correct? Correct. Gotcha.
Right.
Understood,
Can
understood.
anybody here know or remember? I remember when they did it, but I have no idea why. When the bricks were done at the high school, do you remember why? What did we do?
Wasn't that for
for?
lights?
I don't
Was that
know.
the light part?
I don't know.
That was like 90s.
I know, I
It was
remember.
the late 90s, mid late 90s. I think that was lights. I'm pretty sure that was lights.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't remember and.
You have what you need?
it
Yeah,
just
no, I'm
made me
good.
think about it.
And throughout that process, I'll speak to you guys, once we get into interviews and stuff like that. I was involved.
I don't know, I'm just thinking, I'm spitballing.
All right,
Brick service.
get a direction.
Yeah, they
So
are.
we skip that,
Thank you very
and
much.
go to the, that's couple items before we go back to the Does this make sense to go to work? And then
Yeah,
come back to
yes.
the meeting.
No, so we'll go.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Are there any public comments?
So, let's reiterate what our plan is, so we're going to communicate, try and be transparent, and whenever we do our committee reports, the broader report to the town country, that it may mitigate some of that, when we face the joke fields. We are exploring, the cost, the preparation for blah, 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 rather than we're doing.
Well, that's for discussion, Leah, that's for discussion.
Right, but
In theory, that's
But the theory
yes,
is that, what can be shared in those reports or those news articles or whatever, I think we have to keep that in mind whenever we're making these decisions.
We have to craft the message the right way.
Yeah,
Yes.
right, and that's.
There has to be agreement upon it.
Right.
I think I brought this up before. There's a spot, parking spot next to the wall at the end of the handicap.
That's my part.
Is that your?
I'm-
That appeared to be crisscrossed for no parking at one time, but wasn't redone when they lined. At the football game, I parked in the last handicap spot to the left. There were actually two cars parked in between them. Half of the car was almost on the wall. So my question would be, do you want to put one more handicap spot in, or do you want to X everything out? But if you X everything out, you'll have to park there anyway.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's a good point. We had talked, and I think it came to a board meeting too, at public comment, about updating some of the handicap spaces. I will certainly look at that
Yeah, you
area.
could use more than one sign too.
But,
The sign
yeah.
there is almost like.
Due to the construction and the dumpsters placement and all that, we did not get to that over summer. So we will be putting more handicap spaces in up front here. I think that's important. So that is something that is definitely going to happen. I will certainly look at that out there. But if it makes sense to add more handicap in, I
Yeah,
think
for
we're.
people to get to the
You mean
auditorium.
on the baseball side, on that side?
No, that's over here for the auditorium.
The auditorium.
But if we need more out there too, that's absolutely something I think we're lacking on.
I mean, I think you're good except for when you have a bunch of people like football.
Yeah.
I mean, they're on the grass and there's just not enough spots. I don't know if they utilize the band lot or not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, that's on the docket, and if we need to add it in, for sure.
Anything else? Any committee members? Anything just that? All right, so I'll look for motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. Tour?
Let's go for a walk.
Okay, camera for everybody.
I'll show you where my English teacher slipped on a peanut and fell into the wall. And I'll show you.
I didn't know.
Well, Joe Smith, that's something.